Proverbs, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a servant to the lender. Bankers have been scheming for several centuries to rob us of our liberties, freedoms, and rights, and property. In times past, they did so directly themselves. Today, the bankers are far more sophisticated. The Rothschild family came along some few years later, and they figured out how to work the system but not get in the same kind of a bind that Otto got in. And what they did, they were lending money to governments, but what the government had to give them before they would give them money, they had to give them a bond. They had to give them a bond that the government would pay them this bond, and then with that bond they would provide money at interest. The bond exceeded what they gave them, but they put another loop in the system so that they were better protected than Otto was. And now Myers Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812, he had 5 sons, and he taught them the principle that he had just learned, and these guys became the international bankers of Europe. He set them up to lend money to governments, pretty well covered Europe, creating money for the kings to run their government on, but they did it through the same way our government works now. The government borrows money, but they sell them a bond, and the government's obligated to pay that bond back. Now, Napoleon goes to the bankers to get money to fight his wars, and he states that the hand that gives is above the hand that receives, and he didn't like that. He tried to get around those guys, and he was trying to kind of get even with the bankers. He wasn't following along with them the way that they wanted him to, and so they had to do something to slap Napoleon's hand. James Rothschild, who was over the bank in Paris, obtained a tremendous amount of gold, which he sent to Wellington, who was building up an army in the Pyrenees Alps to meet Napoleon at Waterloo. He funded Napoleon's enemies to fight the Battle of Waterloo. And with this big influx of gold, he was able to hire a lot of mercenaries that actually helped him win the war at Waterloo. Now, an interesting thing they did during this battle. The folks back home in England, they didn't know. Let's see, Wellington is from England. Who's going to win the war? Is it going to be Napoleon, the French, or Wellington, the English? And it's going to have a big effect on the economy of England if Wellington loses the war. So, here's what happened. During the battle, when it was obvious that Wellington was winning the war, they had a homing pigeon. The Rothschilds had a homing pigeon. And they put a message on the homing pigeon, and they turned it loose, and it flew across the channel back to England, and it landed in the Rothschilds' bank in their home. And so James's brother Nathan was running the bank in England. He gets this message that Wellington's gonna win the war. So here's what he does. He goes to the bond market early the next day and starts selling his British bonds. And the people say, Rothschild's selling his bonds. We're gonna lose the war. And so there was a rush on selling the bonds. People that had bonds rushed in, they were sell. And the price went down. And then guess what happened at the end of the day? Well, of course, our friend Nathan had his buddies step in and buy up all of these bonds at the reduced level. Now, the bonds retained their value. They became more valuable because Wellington did win the war. What he did, he had knowledge, what was going on. He used it to his advantage and to the disadvantage of other people that held money. And this is a statement that Nathan Rothschild made later on. He said, "I care not what puppets placed on the throne of England to rule the empire upon which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire. And I control the British money supply." This is how Satan does it. He started out a long time ago, and he's just getting things honed down better as we go. The love of money, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which some covet after. They err from the faith, piercing themselves through with many sorrows. 1 Timothy 6:10.